Part 6. Traditional Chinese Medicine, Infertility, Crazy Social Death Patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 51. Hearing by Yes Words. The faces of the two couples flashed with suspicion. Originally, infertility is quite sensitive, and I want to let the capable old Chinese medicine doctor check it. But I didn't expect it to be a little girl who was not yet a fledgling to sit in the clinic. Suddenly I felt like I was being treated like a guinea pig. The woman with glasses tugged at her husband's shoulder and motioned to leave. However, the man grinned and comforted his wife, and then sat down generously. Then he handed Li Jiajia and Bai Ye the reports of their examinations in major hospitals. Dr. Bai, you can take a look at these materials. My wife and I have been married for 2 years, and we have been trying to get pregnant but have never conceived. The two of us have no problem checking our bodies, and the Western doctors have also checked what they should have checked, and the Chinese medicine doctors have not left it behind. But I didn't get any results, and I didn't know what went wrong. I don't know if you can give me any advice. Hear this. Bai Ye and Li Jiajia took the list handed over by the patient. There are hundreds of these thick lists, all of which are the information that the two of them have checked and fed back in major hospitals in the past 2 years. The man's name is Lu Jun, 32 this year. The third phase of the soldier was discharged, and now he works at the retired soldier's guest house. The woman's name is Luo Fang, 28 this year, a middle school teacher, and has a career establishment. Both of them have decent careers, and they are also very healthy people from the looks of their faces. Bai Ye quickly flipped through their inspection reports. Lu Jun's inspection is the simplest, that is, the tadpole quality inspection, which is excellent every time, and he is considered a leader among his peers. Luo Fang is relatively complicated, and all the reproductive anatomy should be examined, and there is no problem. The two also checked the chromosomes and whether the eggs and tadpoles were rejected by antibodies, and the results were normal, which means that there is no problem at the genetic level. Li Jiajia looked at these materials and suddenly felt that her head was big. She read all kinds of preparations last night, learned a lot of infertility knowledge, and thought she could do it in an orderly manner. But after seeing the report of Lu Jun and his wife, he was completely blown up. Good guys. All the checks are fine, so how can you do it? Her Western medicine idea is to check one by one, and the results are all normal. In fact, what doctors are most afraid of is the situation, and they can't detect any problems, but they just can't get pregnant. This is also said in medicine, and it is called unexplained infertility. And in the human population, this group is not a minority, about 5%. In the words of the Dragon Kingdom, the two of you are incompatible. Whew. It's a bit out of the ordinary. After doing enough homework and going to the exam room, the questions that came out of the results were completely out of the syllabus. How to solve this? Li Jiajia couldn't help but feel a little dry. This was the first time she had sat in front of Bai Ye, and she definitely couldn't say something that didn't fit. I don't know if I will smash the signboard of this small medical hall. And don't forget, this is still live. Anyway, you have to say 1, 2, 3. Since there is no problem with Western medical examination, you can only use the means of traditional Chinese medicine to look at it. Li Jiajia sighed in her heart, and suddenly felt like she was roasting on the fire. Nima's various examinations were fine, and it was difficult for Chinese medicine to see the fame. You can't just prevaricate and let the other party continue to cultivate their bodies. Live room at this time. Oh no. Is Colonel Li sweating? He must have encountered a problem. Don't be afraid, there is an anchor watching from the side. The examination reports of these two couples are normal, but they have not been pregnant, and the two of them seem to be very serious, which may be because of the bad pregnancy. Yes, many people can't get pregnant after 5 or 6 years of marriage, and they can't check it out, and they can only do test tubes in the end, which is fate. Haha, So pregnancy is sometimes metaphysics, and Li Ziahua has encountered metaphysics. Yudao is a 99% pregnancy rate for college couples and 1% for marriage. Haha, according to the urine in this live broadcast room, I always feel that there is a big melon. Netizens looked at Li Jiajia's expression and listened to their conversation, and they roughly knew the situation. This is easy to empathize with, and it has attracted the attention of a large number of infertility patients. In fact, in reality, there are so many sick and infertile people, and many of them just can't give birth to children for some reason. That's why some people say that having a child is metaphysics, or probability. Others say that virtue must be accumulated. Otherwise, people who are reincarnated will not want to be reincarnated with you. In short, there are all kinds of theories. Li Jiajia pursed her lips and said to Luo Fangfang stubbornly. Come, I'll take your pulse first. Look at your qi and blood. Okay. Luo Fangfang reluctantly put her hand on the table, always feeling that Li Jiajia's words were offensive to her. Do you blame me for not being able to conceive together? Glancing at Li Jiajia, who was 7 or 8 years younger than herself, Luo Fangfang said with some disdain. We started seeing TCM a year ago. I spent at least 10,000 yuan on Chinese medicine. What red dates, wolfberries, pork liver, longan, I'm almost tired of eating. The implication is that it is impossible for you to be weak in qi and blood, so you don't waste your efforts. Hearing this, Li Jiajia raised her eyebrows slightly, and asked her fingers to be placed on Luo Fangfang's wrist. He said with displeasure on his face. Medicine is not good to take too much, Chinese medicine pays attention to dialectic, I am to understand your physique first. There is a difference between cold and hot physique, and if you take the wrong tonic medicine, it will backfire. In that case, there will be no problem with the Western medical examination, but the Chinese medicine will know it as soon as the pulse is taken. Really, hearing this, Luo Fangfang's knowledge blind spot was touched, and he couldn't help but bow his head. But he said it. However, every time we grab medicine, we catch it from the old Chinese medicine doctor. I still eat according to the old Chinese medicine doctor's instructions. Okay, wife, stop talking, the doctor should be quiet. At this time, Luo Fangfang's husband Lu Jun couldn't help but interject to play around. However, he had no hope in his heart. He glanced at the barrage in the live broadcast room of the White Knight just now, and felt that there was a piece of truth that made sense. That is, pregnancy sometimes depends on life, and there is also the accumulation of virtue. So he plans to go to the supermarket every week to buy some small fish and shrimp to release in the river, and then go to the temple every month to pray for blessings. At this time, Baya looked through the information of the two and suddenly found some words that aroused his vigilance. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 52. White Knight settled. It was found that the weight record on the woman's Luo Fangfang's data had changed significantly. In 1 year, it was reduced from 160 caddies to 100 caddies. Of course, this is a healthier performance, but the weight loss process is bound to be repeated, and the large loss of fat can easily lead to insufficient estrogen secretion. However, if the endocrine system is normal, insufficient estrogen secretion is also a minor problem. Then, Baya saw on the man's information that the man's head had been injured when he was a soldier, causing the small half of his face to be slightly paralyzed. No wonder the face underneath looks like Stallone. This is also insignificant, but it will cause the man's saliva to secrete vigorously. And the saliva secretion is strong, which indicates that the kidney qi is abundant. But Baya faintly felt that the problem was here. This way. Li Jiajia was very serious and rigorous when she took Luo Fangfang's pulse, and Luo Fangfang's pulse happened to be not complicated. At least it's very bloody. That's going to be hard. Traditional Chinese medicine has a holistic approach, that is, for example, by looking at the qi and bloodlines of the palms, you can know the general condition of the body, and the same is true for looking at the tongue, and looking at the pulse is more accurate. Now Luo Fangfang's pulse is very stable and powerful, and the person is completely correct. But how could you not get pregnant? Is there something wrong with the details? Li Jiajia pursed her lips and couldn't help but ask. Did you come on time for your period? It started half a year ago. Luo Fangfang withdrew her hand and said impatiently. Well, I'll just say, I'm fine. Indeed, no problem. Hearing this, Li Jiajia nodded, and then looked at the man Lu Jun. This big brother is full of anger at a glance, let alone take the pulse. This stumped Li Jiajia. I sighed a little. Oh, yes. At first glance, they are from a Kochi family, and they must have been to many major hospitals in the past 2 years. Those tertiary hospitals that integrate traditional Chinese and Western medicine can't see the fame. How can she see the problem by taking the pulse temporarily? Come to think of this. Li Jiajia secretly glanced at Bai Ye, and her eyes seemed to say, Boss, if we give up, we have met a husband and wife who are incompatible. It's not that we are incapacitated, it's that God doesn't let the doll be reincarnated in them. In this case, even if the master comes, he will shake his head. Doctor, is my wife's health really fine? At this time, her husband Lu Jun looked at Li Jiajia and frowned, and couldn't help asking. Ling Zheng's health is very good. Hearing the question, Li Jiajia said a little helplessly. After a pause, he couldn't help but ask. Haven't you two thought about doing IVF? What are you talking about, little girl? Hearing Li Jiajia say this, Luo Fangfang finally pulled down her face and said politely. We have been looking for doctors and medicines for the past 2 years because we don't want to do IVF. That thing costs money and tortures. It's not as effective as natural pregnancy. Don't get excited, I'll just chat casually and ask. When Li Jiajia heard this, she smiled awkwardly. At the same time, I thought to myself, good guys, the money spent by the two of you to see a doctor for 2 years is enough for IVF. Husband, let's go, I said I shouldn't waste time coming to this small place. Hearing Li Jiajia's brainless words, Luo Fangfang glanced at her, and then stood up and prepared to leave. As soon as this remark came out, the atmosphere of the Chinese medicine hall has changed a little. Live room at this time. Oh no. Colonel Li is going to offend people. She really shouldn't say this. People want Chinese medicine conditioning when they come to see a doctor, and they propose to do a test tube, which is a proper smashing of their own signboard. In fact, in the face of this situation, traditional Chinese medicine is also overstretched, and if you are an anchor, you can't jump out of the problem, let alone make suggestions. Yes, I feel sorry for Jiajia. Jiajia has become the anchor's thunder. So, family, the first choice for infertility is the gynecology department of a tertiary hospital. At least the examination is complete, 1 is 1 and 2 is 2, and it will not be as vague as Chinese medicine. Isn't the essence of Chinese medicine to improve immunity by conditioning the body? But pregnancy is very mysterious. I think Li Jiajia is not wrong. You have to be upright. Chinese medicine has no way to take them, and doing IVF in time is the way out. Li Jiajia was a little helpless. The patient wanted to leave, and she couldn't stop her. Just looked at the white knight with a little apology in his eyes. And at this time, Bai Ye, who had just carefully read the information of the two, spoke. Wait a minute, two. Just finished reading the information of the two of you, I'll give you a pulse again. The voice fell. Luo Fangfang and Lu Jun couldn't help but stop. Bai Ye's voice seemed to carry some kind of gentle energy, which made it difficult for them to refuse. Luo Fangfang glanced at Bai Ye, and her voice softened. But Dr. Bai, from the perspective of Chinese medicine, our body is fine. Check and fill in the gaps. Hearing this, Bai smiled faintly. Traditional Chinese medicine also pays attention to real time, and from the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, the changes in yin and yang in the body are related to the change of seasons, sunrise and sunset, and even emotions. Maybe my assistant didn't find any problems when he checked your pulse just now, but I checked the pulse here, and I may find some exposed details. Hear this. Lu Jun inexplicably felt at ease. This Dr. Bai looked young, but he had the demeanor of an old Chinese medicine doctor. It's called professionalism. Luo Fangfang thought about it, unwilling to waste time in vain, and nodded. Even when he looked at Bai's clear eyes, he was ashamed of the emotional stress he had just had. So he said politely. So, there's Dr. Lonberg. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 53. Luo Fangfang sat down again, stretched out her hand, and let Bai put her fingertips on her wrist. Looking at Bai's fingers as warm as jade, Luo Fangfang couldn't help but thump twice in her heart. It was her natural reaction as an average woman to see a high-quality man. However, sitting next to her husband, Luo Fangfang also blushed because she had such a reaction. Then he inadvertently looked into the eyes of the White Knight. I found that Bai's eyes were as bright as stars, and there was divinity in the clarity, and it was really intoxicating to look at it up close. Luo Fangfang looked at such a beautiful man, and her heart couldn't help but soften. Even if you can't see the problem with the pulse, it doesn't matter, it's good to keep the pulse in this moment longer. Huh, sensing Luo Fangfang's strange gaze, Bai's eyes were a little puzzled. No. It's okay. Luo Fangfang hurriedly looked away, and suddenly had a confused feeling of a deer crashing into her heart. And this detail was naturally seen by Li Jiajia, and she couldn't help complaining in her heart. Good guys. It turned out to be Yan Dog. Miss Ben will give you a pulse and pull a stinky face, and my boss will be pleasant when he comes. Don't you want to be so double standard? However, there is one thing to say, the first time I saw the boss take the pulse during the day, it was really pleasing to the eye. It turns out that the boss looks so good when he's serious. Li Jiajia playfully stuck out her tongue, looked at the serious White Knight, and couldn't help muttering in her heart. But even if it is replaced by the boss, this woman's pulse is simple, and she can't see any fame. People are in good health, have normal qi and blood, normal menstruation, and normal ovulation. There are no organic lesions, so I really have nothing to say, so I can't suspect that people are not accurate in the big hospital, so let's re-examine it. Live room at this time. Sure enough, I still want the anchor to get on the horse. Don't say it, the anchor's temperament is just reassuring. Haha, you look at Jiajia's resentful little eyes, it's so cute. In my opinion, these two couples are in good health and normal, even if the anchor is on, they can't see the problem, this is the limitation of traditional Chinese medicine. Indeed, I admit that the anchor is good at Chinese medicine, but when it comes to looking at infertility, the perspective of Chinese medicine still has many flaws. The nonsense upstairs is not, people just can't check it out by Western medicine, so they come to Chinese medicine to find a solution. I don't know what your situation is, we started drinking Chinese medicine from preparing for pregnancy, and we didn't see Western medicine, so we got pregnant in 2 months. Chinese medicine is truly amazing. Hey, if the anchor can see the fame, then this old couple has seen so many doctors in big hospitals in the past 2 years, aren't they all scum? Netizens looked at Baya and took the pulse, but they didn't have much hope. After all, in the general perception of the public, the role of Chinese medicine is to regulate the body, and if you really want to find the problem, you have to look at Western medicine. At this time, Baya had already understood Luo Fangfang's physical condition through the supreme pulse technique, and at the same time speculated some of her life and rest habits. Seriously, I don't see the vice. However, the weight loss method is debatable, it has some damage to the body, but it is not enough to cause infertility. Thinking of this, Baya frowned a little. However, some details may be about the truth, and you need to ask the other person how they feel. So Baya looked at Luo Fangfang and asked. Miss Luo, your weight loss is so obvious, from 160 catties to 100 catties, is it the method of fasting and be good? Luo Fangfang was still peeking at Baya's prosperous beauty, and after Baya's inadvertent words rang in his ears, he couldn't help but be stunned. Then he looked at Baya with a shocked face and spoke. Dr. Bai, how do you know? I did lose weight by fasting and be good. It's just enough to regulate the spleen and stomach. Any questions? At this time, Luo Fangfang's eyes when she looked at Baya suddenly changed, if there was still a trace of doubt just now, now she admires. Even her weight loss method can be guessed, it's amazing. After Luo Fangfang's husband Lu Jun on the side heard this, his eyes were also bright, it seems that he is right to look at people. When Baya heard Luo Fangfang say this, he nodded slightly and said slowly. Intermittent fasting and Bigo can indeed regulate the spleen and stomach. But, let's be honest. Speaking of this, Baya paused, and his fingers were cut into the Yangqi point on Luo Fangfang's wrist. Luo Fangfang was a little pained, and listening to Baya's words, she couldn't help muttering. She suddenly found that she was afraid that Chinese medicine would bring a twist to her words. It was as if the death penalty was suddenly about to be announced, which made her heart pound. Live room at this time. Oh no. Looking at the anchor's expression, I really see that the name is coming. Haha. Look at other people's little daughters-in-law nervously, don't you just talk to the anchor one by one, affirm and then deny. This hand has the taste of old Chinese medicine. Honestly, me. When I go to a Chinese medicine doctor, I'm afraid that the doctor will fix the sentence. This sentence is no less lethal than a psychological nuclear bomb. However, I think it's no problem, Bigo is good for the body. The anchor's eyes narrowed, and he found that there was something else wrong with this matter. Haha, I now suspect that the anchor is forcibly looking for himself under the stairs, and he can't see the problem of infertility, so he has nothing to say. The analysis upstairs makes sense, Li Jiajia broke face just now, the anchor is trying to get back to the field. At this time, netizens still didn't believe that Baya could see what was wrong, and they just felt that Baya was playing a score. In fact, netizens are right, Baya really didn't find any clues this time. The system prompt was not triggered, so I could only use the 4 diagnosis methods of looking, smelling, and palpating to understand some details by asking. Tell me the truth. After Baya paused, he said with a serious face. Weight loss is about controlling energy, not nutrition. Energy does not equal nutrition. Judging from your various pulses, you have not achieved the stage of re-eating after the valley, and you still have a tendency to diet or single food. This has led to an imbalance in your body's nutrition, but due to the improvement of the energy supply to the spleen and stomach, the improvement of yang qi, and the fact that you have traditional Chinese medicine to regulate it, there is no loss of qi and blood. But it's not a good thing, it just means that your body has reached a delicate state of equilibrium. It is a state of nutritional imbalance and no loss of qi and blood. In this state, your endocrine is weak. Let me ask you, is your Sakura road very dry? The voice fell. Luo Fangfang was completely stunned, still trying to digest Baya's words. To be honest, she didn't feel much in private places. And it's really good to mention this in front of everyone's eyes. It's so embarrassing. And when Luo Fangfang's husband Lu Jun heard Baya's last sentence, he was shocked, and then his eyes looked at Baya fixedly. At the same time, I was amazed. Miracle doctor. This Dr. must have never seen us in the same room, but he can deduce this detail, it is almost like witnessing it. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 54. At this time. After hearing Bai Ye's analysis, Li Jiajia originally felt that it was very reasonable. I also immediately realized that the point I ignored when taking the pulse was that there was no comprehensive analysis. But when I heard the boss ask the woman, "Are you very dry, Sakura?" Her whole body was crooked all of a sudden. Then he stared at the white knight with wide eyes, and his heart beat with a blushing face. "Good guy, boss, your sudden drag racing is really unexpected. It's just a pulse, how can you tell if the private place is doing it? Whether the female channel is moist or not is related to many factors, such as the state of the flora, pH value, hygienic inflammation, and so on. It is impossible to judge just by endocrine problems." However, soon Li Jiajia realized that Bai Ye was asking, this was asking, which meant that he was still in the reception stage. However, this is such a direct question, and it really makes people blush and heartbeat. After all, this kind of shameful topic should have been asked by her female assistant. Thinking of this, Li Jiajia couldn't help but feel a little ashamed of her carelessness. At this time, the barrage in the live broadcast room. The anchor is driving again, this car is so fast. Boy, get out. My real name Zhao Taizu likes to listen, the anchor is doing good deeds, please be sure to expand and talk about it. I won't have to dry my mouth anymore in the future. There were a lot of people in the elevator just now, what did the anchor just say? Anchor, I admit that you have excellent medical skills, but you can judge the dryness of the place where people give birth by taking the pulse, isn't this nonsense? Haha, anchor, you understand traffic. My man is 40 this year and has just given birth to a baby boy. Shut up, be careful that the live broadcast room is blocked, no one blames you for infertility, but you can't be believed. Seeing other people's little daughters-in-law were stunned, blushing and not wanting to answer the anchor's questions. Netizens were shocked by Bai Ye's sudden mention of private words, and made shameful speculations. It's unconvincing. After all, even if the place is dry, it has little to do with infertility. More and more people think that Bai Ye is poor in donkey skills. I'm just pretending to get back on the field. At this time, Luo Fangfang came back to her senses and understood what Dr. Bai was asking, and her face immediately turned red. But she thought about it carefully. Although he doesn't feel that he can do it in that place, every time he has sex with his husband, it will be difficult for him to enter the door at first, and he can only make a miracle vigorously, break in. Looking at my husband's eyes again, I immediately understood that Dr. Bai's inference was completely correct. It's just that. She said this in front of everyone in the live broadcast room, and she didn't say much. After hesitating for a moment, he looked at Bai Ye again, and just nodded slightly. Your surname is also very weak. Bai Ye saw her admit and continued to ask. So it's your husband who offers to have sex every time, right? As soon as these words came out, Luo Fangfang was stunned for a moment. Miracle doctor. She couldn't answer the question just now, but this question went to her heart. She didn't know why she was so low-willed. And every time I lie down with my boss, I have to think about Xiao Xianro in my mind to barely get into the state. It should be the effect of weight loss. But listening to what Dr. Bai said, is there another hidden secret? At this time, Luo Fangfang's husband Lu Jun heard Bai Ye's words, and he was immediately extremely emotional. Dr. Bai is really accurate in seeing people. We all said we wanted to make a baby, but every time I took the initiative, and it took a lot of effort. Dr. Bai, you're amazing, and you're doing it right. At this time, Lu Jun couldn't help but praise. At this time. After netizens in the live broadcast room heard Lu Jun's words, they immediately exploded. It, isn't it? The anchor hits the nail on the head. There's no need for the husband to lie, the anchor really saw such details by taking the pulse. The anchor is as steady as an old dog. But, how can the anchor know how to be a girl, so understandable? Haha, this is called being familiar with 300 Tang poems, and if you can't make poems, you can chant them, and the anchor must have read countless films like The Old Man. Bullshit. Even if you have seen countless cherry blossoms and have not explored the Yin Forest Trail, it is impossible for you to have such judgment as the anchor. I seriously doubt that the anchor has practiced the Gatton eagle fingering, or has been personally taught by Mr. Shimizuma. This live broadcast room is really hidden in the Dragon and Crouching Tiger, and the strange knowledge has increased again. But, gotta touch, Sikashi, but, even if the anchor's judgment is correct, it has nothing to do with infertility. Li Jiajia glanced at the barrage that exploded the screen, and while shocking by Yes' judgment, she was also puzzled. Even if the boss is right, it has little to do with infertility. And there is no hindrance to the healthy tadpoles looking for their eggs. Luo Fangfang also thought of this, and couldn't help but ask weakly. Dr. Bai, could it be that the dry cherry blossom path also affects pregnancy? Not really. Hearing the question, Bai shook his head and said seriously. Your situation is unique in the infertility world, and I need to take care of some details so that I can piece together the truth. Comparing your tadpoles and eggs to the eggs are not naturally resistant, there must be some details that our doctors overlooked. And the truth is in the details. As soon as this remark came out, Li Jiajia inexplicably felt that it was on fire, and she was immediately in awe. The boss at this moment is so handsome, said. Baya looked at Luo Fangfang's husband Lu Jun. Mr. Lu, it's your turn, I'll take your pulse too. I don't need to, Dr. Bai. Hearing this, Lu Jun was slightly stunned, and continued. I'm in good health, and my tadpole checkups are excellent. Don't waste time on the lower pulse, and maybe I can give you suggestions on eugenics. Hearing Lu Jun's words, Bai's face must have been content. Okay, then I'll listen to Dr. Bai. Lu Jun said heartily. Bai randomly placed his hand on Lu Jun's wrist. Soon, with the assistance of the Supreme Pulse technique, he learned about the other party's health condition. That's really quite healthy, and there are no vices, and it's really upright. It's just that, unexpectedly, it would be this reason. Poof, looking at the prompt given by the system, Bai couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ding. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 55. White Knight tried to restrain his smile. With the help of the system, the truth presented is really unexpected. The main cause of infertility in these two couples is that the husband dotes on his wife too much, especially when he is having a party. Of course. It's also such a coincidence. It's so coincidental that people can't help but laugh. It felt like God was playing a joke on them. What's going on? It turned out that Luo Fangfang was drier underneath, and her husband loved to take care of his wife, so he would help her. In this way, while teasing Luo Fangfang's feelings, you can also use saliva to make the road below her smoother. It's just that they ignore a little. Saliva can affect the viability of tadpoles. This is equivalent to Lu Jun's little tadpole was originally A grade, but under the influence of his saliva, it directly became D grade. To put it more bluntly, it was Lu Jun who personally exterminated his hundreds of millions of descendants. And this Lu Jun was injured on the left side of his face when he was in the army, which caused him to have some facial paralysis, due to the nerve action, which directly caused him to secrete more saliva than ordinary people. This is tantamount to his charging little tadpoles, which is tantamount to a mountain of water. It's so dramatic. After Baya found out, he shouted outrageous in his heart. The host is detected and the diagnosis begins. Select diagnosis result publication method to be enabled. Option 1, vaguely say the man's problem, don't let the patient die. Use cryptic words to explain the situation to the man, but the patient is likely to not understand, or will not correct it if he is deaf. Reward, none. Option 2, tell the man to avoid mouth, there are thousands of ways to flirt, don't let saliva hurt the essence. Ruthlessly pointed out the man's problem, telling him that a large amount of saliva trapped in Sakura Road will seriously affect the vitality of the little tadpole. Reward, 100 times the energy. 100 times more energy, you will have the physical strength, energy, and brain power that surpasses that of national athletes and scientific researchers. Even if you don't sleep for 7 days and 7 nights, it will not affect your work status. Hear this emotionless electronic sound. The corners of Baye's mouth hooked a faint arc. This reward is exactly what he needs, thinking that he will definitely not nest in this alley in the future, to stand at the top of the industry to promote the culture of traditional Chinese medicine. It must take vigorous energy and brain power. But this dramatic fact still made him a little incredulous, and Baye decided to confirm with Luo Fangfang before announcing it to her husband. Ahem. Baye restrained his smile and looked at Lu Jun. Mr. Lu, is your saliva secretion relatively vigorous? Yes, the left side of my face is a little paralyzed, and when I open my mouth to talk or move my mouth, I can't control my drooling. Hearing Baye's question, Lu Jun replied sincerely. Baye nodded and said solemnly. Both, the root cause of your infertility, I've discovered. It's a bit of a strange thing, but that's what it should be. Don't be surprised, the way to check for infertility is elimination. You have had a lot of physical check ups in the past 2 years, so you can rule out that it is your own health problem. That's understandable, right? The voice fell. Luo Fangfang and her husband Lu Jun suddenly cheered up. They had just been amazed by Baye's medical skills, and they had completely trusted Baye. However, after the joy, I immediately became confused. Since both of them are healthy and have no physical problems, what will cause infertility? The two looked at each other, waiting for Baye to speak. Miss Luo, please come over for a while, I want to talk to you about some private issues. Baye got up and pointed to the inner room next to him. It's too private and sensitive to be streamed, and it also confirms my inferences. Please cooperate with each other. Oh. Okay. Hearing Baye say this, Luo Fangfang hesitated, but still nodded. Followed Baye into the back room. In places that can't be covered by live cameras. Luo Fangfang looked at Baye a little nervously, but heard Baye ask softly. Does your husband like to help you? Ah, hearing this, Luo Fangfang's face immediately turned red, and she almost wanted to say incivility, but after facing Baye's upright gaze, her demeanor suddenly softened again. Then he nodded weakly. Yes. Isn't that the way it is? Ah, isn't it, Dr. Bai, you can guess that. At this point, the other side. Dr. Li, what do you think Dr. Bai has seen? Lu Jun couldn't help but look at Li Jiajia nervously and asked. I don't know. Hearing this, Li Jiajia shook her head, and then said seriously. However, Mr. Lu, you don't have to be nervous. From my years of experience in studying medicine, this kind of infertility is very common. My boss's infertility, you have to trust his judgment, and I have never made a mistake so far. And saying this, Li Jiajia looked at Baye's back, but her heart was up and down. At the moment, there is no mistake, but it has only been live broadcast for 1 day. The boss is really, if you can't see it, you can't see it. What a big deal. All the tests were done normally, even the DNA was checked. The eggs and children do not reject small tadpoles, and they are not pregnant for 2 years, which can only show that the 8 characters do not match. These two small things are too incomprehensible and can only be left to time. If you can find any other distractions, gotcha. Next year's Nobel Prize in Medicine is yours. But is this possible? We human beings are walking the path that countless people have walked before, and there is nothing new under the sun. Boss, you also know that infertility is checked by elimination, and now there is nothing to rule out. Is it difficult to ask others in detail how they have sex with each other? Oh, don't be funny. But despite thinking so, Ligia still has a glimmer of hope in her heart. What if? What if the boss finds out the clues? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 56. At this time, the barrage in the live broadcast room. Ah! Did we say bad things to make the anchor angry? Haha, don't be sentimental, the anchor is going to find someone's little daughter-in-law to discuss shameful things. Anyway, the anchor's medical skills are really clever, but can you judge the cause of this little couple's infertility? It feels outrageous. The anchor eats, but judging from the current analysis report, the anchor is estimated to have not withdrawn, so they can only let them have more parties, and now looking for someone's little daughter-in-law must be for psychological enlightenment. Yes, if the anchor can determine the root cause of their infertility by taking the pulse, wouldn't it be a direct slap in the face to the big hospitals they have seen in the past 2 years? Netizens posted various discussions on the issue of Luo Fangfang and Lu Jun's husband and wife. Combined with their own circumstances, almost all of them believe that it is impossible for White Knight to find out the root cause of their infertility. After all, it is too mysterious, and it excludes all possible checks, which can only be said to be a matter of probability. Meanwhile, the other side. In a villa in the imperial capital, Huang Ziyi, the youngest in the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group, happened to brush up on the live broadcast room of the White Knight. She happened to be infertility for a PhD couple, and she happened to be facing a similar predicament as Baiye, so she almost clicked in. After understanding the situation in detail, Huang Ziyi couldn't help but sweat for the sunny and handsome White Knight. Little brother White Knight, you're really unlucky. It's hard to ride a tiger. When it comes to infertility, I am most afraid of encountering this situation, and I can't detect any problems. Explain to everyone that this is a matter of probability, and people don't necessarily buy it, they will only think that your medical skills are not good. Alas, the little couple you asked for is probably a matter of bad luck. Well, if you can figure out the other factors, then the same infertility case of the doctor couple in my hands can be handed over to you for processing, as the first assessment for you to join our group. Bai's Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum. Not much. Baiye walked out with Luo Fangfang. At this time, Luo Fangfang's face turned into a small apple, which made everyone scratch their heads. Seeing this, her husband Lu Jun couldn't help but feel pity and asked, "Wife, what are you doing? What did Dr. Bai tell you? Are you trying to find out the cause of our infertility?" Lu Jun hugged his wife's waist and asked 3 times in a row. Luo Fangfang knew that she was now exposed to the live broadcast camera, and then thought of the shameful details that Baiye told her, and her face suddenly turned even redder. However, looking at the anxious husband, he nodded shyly. "It's better to open your heart than to die." So he said softly, "Dr. Bai is really good, husband, he knows everything. Dr. Bai's analysis should be right. Husband, the reason for my infertility. Actually, it's not me but you." The voice fell. Lu Jun was directly stunned. "Me? How is that possible?" Puzzled, his voice was very loud and went straight out of the alley. Lijiajia and melon-eating netizens were also puzzled after hearing Bai Ye's words. This military brother is upright and strong as a tiger, how can he be the culprit of the infertility of the young couple? They couldn't help but look at Bai Ye, expecting Bai Ye to give a reasonable explanation. Bai Ye walked over to the consultation table and sat down. With a serious face, he looked at Lu Jun, and then said earnestly, "Mr. Lu, it's time to taboo. I've checked the details with your lover, and I promise that as long as you refrain from eating, you will be able to conceive a baby in less than 3 months. Taboo." Hearing Bai Ye say this, Lu Jun suddenly became even more confused, and couldn't help but speak. If you read a violent novel, go to Filu Novel Network. Dr. Bai, since I was trying to get pregnant, I have been paying attention to my diet. The diet is mainly light, I have quit smoking, and I have drunk less. I still need to be jealous. Ahem. Bai Ye stretched out his hand and waved it gently, and said slowly, "Mr. Lu, I know you're in a hurry, but don't worry about it yet. When I say taboo, I have to put double quotation marks. Got it?" Hear this. Lu Jun shook his head incomprehensibly, and said a little aggrieved, "I don't understand." When Bai Ye heard this, he was also stunned. This Han Han couldn't understand his wife's expression. It seems that it needs to be clarified a little more. "Mr. Lu, I mean, when you applaud love, you have to be merciful." Huh. Hearing this, Lu Jun immediately paused. "Wait a minute, Dr. Bai, I seem to understand what you mean. But. No, but." Bai Ye waved his hand and continued to speak. "To give you a science lesson, a large amount of saliva will kill the activity of the tadpoles, causing them to die. Got it?" Hear this. After Lu Jun tried to digest it for a while, his eyes suddenly widened, and he was speechless and choked. Bai Ye's words are simple and clear, and even a fool can understand what they mean. The reason why the relationship has been making it impossible for my wife to conceive for the past 2 years, is it so fantastical? Meanwhile, Li Jiajia was also completely stunned after hearing Bai Ye's words. Then his eyes lit up, and he had an epiphany in an instant. I really didn't expect the truth to be so outrageous, but so scientific. Oh, yes. If they have that action before they have the stomach, it happens that the man's face is paralyzed and causes too much saliva secretion. There is no doubt that it will hurt the live, Qianzhao's, nature of the tadpoles. This is an experiment that has been done by someone. A small amount of healthy saliva does not affect the activity, but who can guarantee that their saliva is free of other dirt? And if the amount of saliva is large, it will also affect the acid-base balance of the boulevard, making it difficult for tadpoles. I really never thought that such a healthy couple would fall here. It's really a trick. Haha. Li Jiajia suddenly couldn't help but want to laugh at her thoughts, thinking that the boss had discovered some shocking secret in the medical world. That's it, he drowned his own children and grandchildren, ha ha ha. What, excuse me, Fen. I shouldn't be laughing, but I can't help it. The barrage in the live broadcast room also left a blank. The air seemed to be quiet. But then, some kind of restlessness is like a volcanic eruption, boom. The barrage exploded. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 57. Who will popularize science? Does saliva have an effect? In fact, under normal circumstances, there are ordinary salivary enzymes in saliva, which will not affect vitality. But if you have oral problems, that's another story. Boom, strange knowledge has increased again. My real name Zhao Rishan loves to watch the anchors solving cases. Listening to the anchor's words is better than reading a book for 10 years, ha ha ha. After I knew that there was such a thing, wouldn't I save the unjust money for medical treatment, thinking about this big brother who has been in the dark for 2 years, ha ha ha. What's, Is the anchor solving the case? Good Nima's outrageous truth, dig the groove, but if you think about it, it's really possible to die of laughter. It's miserable. Look at the little eyes of other people's little daughters-in-law, the anchor is really bad, and it makes the family die again. Conan's face, the scheming baby is a mohe peach. Eliminate all kinds of impossibilities. This Nima is really the closest to the truth. Ha ha ha. Guys, they all know. Damn, this big brother is famous, isn't it 2 years for nothing? Ha ha ha, 3 seconds of silence. Ah. After hearing Bayes' analysis, netizens suddenly realized that if it weren't for the foreshadowing of a large number of inspection reports in front, they really couldn't accept this truth for a while. But when they saw the expressions of these two little mouths, they instantly had a realization. It's really outrageous that a mother opens the door to her outrageous son, and it's outrageous to get home. It's so surprising. But when you think about it, it's unexpected and reasonable. Because there's no better explanation. And Bayes' superb medical skills are also there is no doubt. Li Jiajia covered her mouth and smiled. Then he couldn't help but speak. Mr. Liu, you really have to be taboo, in fact, our girls' private parts are very dirty. If you talk too much, you will be 404. I'll give you a science popularization. The voice fell. Ahem. When Baye heard Li Jiajia say this, he couldn't help but glance at Li Jiajia. I didn't expect this girl who looks innocent to drive the car and really step on the accelerator to the end. After Lu Jun heard Li Jiajia's words, his face twitched with embarrassment and paused for a while. He took a step forward and stopped talking, then asked bitterly with wide eyes. White, Dr. Bai, are you sure that's the reason? But when I watched movies and learned about cherry blossom teaching, those actors did it like this. As soon as this remark came out, the entire TCM hall was silent for a few more seconds. The little insects on the wall also seemed to be thundered by Lu Jun's words. Poof, ha 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 ha, I'm starting to sympathize with this big brother. Woji. A lot of the film is fake. Is this guy using entertainment as teaching materials? Agree upstairs, I remember watching the interview and saying they weren't real guns. Damn. The picture of the pig arch cabbage suddenly appeared in my mind, and it lingered. Ha ha ha. This is going to make the anchor a hole down. I'm laughing to death, is there really such a pure man in the world? This big brother's practical ability needs to be improved. Baye looked at Lu Jun directly, and he also called out in his heart. Does this Han Han directly use the performance in the obscure film as a teaching? Who gave you the courage and self-confidence? Is it because the amount of reading is too small or you can't tell the difference between fantasy and reality at all? Can you still be thundering? Big brother, you're a man. It's outrageous to just use those obscure movies as teaching materials. Didn't you know that there would be a lot of props and exaggerations in it? At this time, Li Jiajia also broke the defense. She restrained her smile and enlightened. This big brother. That's all an illusion. Actually, as a girl, I don't like that kind of flattery. Really, hearing Li Jiajia say this, Lu Jun looked dazed, and then looked at his wife Luo Fangfang. At this time, Luo Fangfang had already lowered her head with a flushed face and said nothing. Of course, everyone's tastes are different, and I can't generalize. Li Jiajia said, making a disgusted face. Ahem, Jiajia, don't interject yet. Baye heard Li Jiajia driving like this, and he couldn't stand it, so he hurriedly stopped it. Then he looked at the honest man Lu Jun and said seriously. Mr. Liu, in fact, from the perspective of medical and health professionals, if you are aiming at eugenics, then you really have to avoid it. Because there are actually many viruses in the human mouth and shade passages, such as HPV. It's just that these viruses are negative and not expressed due to the low vitality of the human body and the special environment. And once the internal environment is unbalanced, or if the person's qi and blood are weak and the immunity is reduced, you will easily get sick if you continue the original operation. I say that, do you understand? Hear this. Lu Jun scratched his head in embarrassment, nodded solemnly, and said humbly. It's still Dr. Bai's words that are easy to understand. I understand. In other words, we've been running high-risk campaigns. It's not high risk. Hearing this, Bai smiled faintly. It's just that you do that and then you clean it up. It will further deepen the symptoms of dryness. It's a vicious circle. Dr. Bai, I remember, hearing Bai's words, Lu Jun couldn't help but be a little scared, and nodded continuously. I'm going to be jealous. Nope. Don't do that again. Bai nodded, calmed the emotions of the two, and slowly spoke. Okay, that's it, I didn't mean to let you die. It's just to make you aware of the seriousness of the problem, otherwise it's a waste of money. The consultation fee is 50, scan the code here to pay. Bai's voice fell. Lu Jun's eyes widened suddenly. What, you heard it right, it's only 50. In the past 2 years, the two couples have spent more than 100,000 yuan in order to find out the cause of infertility. But here it only takes 50. It? This really hit his heart with a lot of shock. But, it's right to think about it. They were already healthy, but they just came to take the pulse for consultation, and they didn't prescribe medicine or acupuncture. And such a simple consultation to check the pulse has solved the doubts that have been coiled in their hearts for 2 years. Thinking of this, Lu Jun looked at his wife deeply, and then sighed. I knew it was so. If you read a violent novel, go to Filu Novel Network. If only I could have come earlier, tisk, I can't think about it anymore, it hurts. At this time, netizens in the live broadcast room also sighed. It's still cost-effective for the anchor, and now I go to a big hospital to check for infertility, and I can't check out the hair at all. Yes, if you encounter the situation of this little couple, all the inspections will be done again, and you will be guilty. It's true, sometimes you can't get sick if you don't have a disease, those cold instruments penetrate the body, and ordinary people who are weak can't stand it at all. Empathize, I go to the Western doctor to see a doctor, no matter what kind of disease I have to hang the bottle, the more I fight, the weaker I become. Enema, Western medicine just suppressed my symptoms, and the pathogen is still there. And have you noticed that the anchor can grasp a lot of details just by checking the pulse, unlike Western medicine, which has to make all kinds of films. This is the characteristic of traditional Chinese medicine, knowing the micro can know the whole, knowing the micro to see the subtle. This is a law that has not changed for thousands of years. So, if a good Chinese medicine doctor doesn't make money, quacks will blackmail and intimidate you. It's still the anchor, the price is close to the people. I want to team up with my friends to find the anchor to see a doctor. Ibid. Ditto add 1. Ibid. Add 2. Luo Fang scanned the code and paid, looked at her husband, pursed her lips, and said with a guilty face. Husband, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have looked for those Sakura country movies for you to see. If you don't know, I can teach you by hand. I'm the one who broke you. Wife, don't talk about it. Hearing his wife's words, Lu Jun hurriedly covered Luo Fang's mouth in shame. Now we're all on camera. Husband, I feel sorry for you. If you want to die, let's die together. Hearing this, Luo Fang muttered at the corner of her mouth. As he spoke, he glanced at the live broadcast room of the White Knight again. Suddenly, netizens heard her straightforwardness and broke the defense again. Worry. You little couple are really amazing. I thought your husband had some bad habits, but it turned out to be an innocent and good man. Poof, ha ha ha. This is reversed. So why do you say that men are than women? Ahem. I'm being moved by the anchor's uprightness. Are you two scolding us to send dog food? Zero begging for flowers. It. The eldest brother who is like a river is so virtuous. It turns out that the pervert is myself. Ha 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 ha. After a long time, these two couples are really half a catty. Poof ha 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 ha, one is really daring to teach, the other is really daring to do. Hear Luo Fang Fang's words. Bai Ye couldn't help but be stunned. I thought it was a man's fetish problem, but I didn't expect his wife to be the culprit. This Lu Jun is a rough man, but he doesn't have any heroic qualities. But think about it, he is a soldier, he is upright, and the environment in which the army is located makes him unable to touch those filthy things. But if he hadn't been injured in the army, resulting in facial paralysis and strong saliva secretion, he would not have been infertile for 2 years. So, it's a terrible thing. Fortunately, I can stop the loss in time now. This way. Watching the two leave, Li Jiajia couldn't help but ask. Boss, we finally received a couple of patients, can we charge 50 yuan? Then what's not? Hearing this, Bai Ye smiled faintly and looked at Li Jiajia with a puzzled expression. Isn't it too little? Isn't it? Li Jiajia said bluntly when she heard this. Checking infertility is to use a mechanical elimination method. If it is not for the boss to point out the main points, they don't know how many more tests to do, how much money to spend. If you want me to say, it's not too much to charge 380 yuan. Hearing Li Jiajia say this, the corners of Bai Ye's mouth slightly hooked up a good-looking arc. You can't just think about making money. And to put it bluntly, good Chinese medicine does not make money, and if you see the root of the disease at a glance, it will not be capitalized like Western medicine. Said. Bai Ye suddenly thought of something again, and said slowly. Besides, it's cheaper and more affordable, and it can attract customers. When Li Jiajia heard this, she nodded thoughtfully. What the boss said has a point, I can't even refute it. It seems that we are practicing medicine in this small alley, and we have to fight a protracted battle. Not necessarily. Seeing Li Jiajia frowning, Bai Ye thought of the generous G wavelength, and said leisurely. If you can receive some high-powered big people, it will only be a matter of time before you can change your fate. Therefore, it is very important to give and take, and to make good karma. At this time. The other side. In a villa in the imperial capital. Huang Xiaowai in the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group looked at the live broadcast room of Bai Ye and couldn't help but be speechless. I never thought that there would be such a reversal in the development of events, it is really speechless. Little brother Bai, I haven't seen how good your medical skills are, didn't I just find a loophole in someone's party by luck? Tisk, Professor Liang can't pick the wrong person. Looks like we need to set up an assessment for him right away. Our Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group is about to hold a Chinese and foreign traditional Chinese medicine exchange meeting, but we can't let this guy who is fishing in troubled waters in. Huang Xiaowai muttered to herself, and suddenly thought that there happened to be a doctor and wife in her hands, who were also infertile. The couple are important national scientific researchers, who have made important contributions to the research of graphene superconducting materials, and also play a vital role in the development of the country's military industry. The couple is 40 years old, married for 5 or 6 years, and has no children. The country is worried about them, and feels that their excellent genes should be passed on. So they found the elites in the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group to treat them. Since infertility is a minor problem, everything was assigned to Huang Xiaowai, who was only 16 years old. Huang Xiaowai is good at taking the pulse and taking prescriptions, but the disadvantage is that he has no Western medical education. She approached the two couples and found that they were in good health, even though they were in their 40s. The feedback from the consultation is also normal, the woman has a normal period, and the man also has Menji and Uncle Chen. At the same time, they have no genetic problems, and there is no rejection of tadpoles by eggs. But I just couldn't conceive a child. Huang Xiaowai didn't have any tricks for this. After all, she was only good at traditional Chinese medicine, and she didn't understand the related specialties of Western medicine. Therefore, they also have the right to push the couple's case to other people in the group, and of course, it can also be used as an exam question for the newcomers in the group to test the newcomers' professional ability. After all, White Knight's specialty is to look at infertility. Come to think of this, Huang Xiaowai immediately became in the group. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 58. Huang Xiaowai was preparing to be in the group for a white night. I found that everyone was discussing things in the group. She flipped through it. It turned out that Qin Lao sent a message for help in the group. This Qin Lao was born in a well-known family of traditional Chinese medicine. He was originally the president of the Imperial Capital University Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine, and later retired and rehired into the Huaxia Imperial Medical Group. Qin Lao's nickname in the group is Great Doctor, sincerely helping the world and saving the people, Qin Shi. Dear friends, I am now working with national leaders in North Africa for medical relief. Photo. 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 I'm in this situation right now. The indigenous people of North Africa have a strange brain disease, which has caused many young and middle-aged people to have strokes. I used Mr. Chi Xia's acupuncture program to restrain strokes, but now I encounter another problem, that is, they are accompanied by infertility symptoms. At present, it is infertility of unknown causes, and Western medicine shows growth hormone secretion disorders, and everything else is normal, and the government here is very anxious. The initial diagnosis is scorpion venom, evil poison, and damp poison, and I urgently need a friend who is proficient in prescriptions to give me advice. Diagnostic diagram. Huang Xiaowai saw that it was Qin Lao's request for help, and he was immediately in awe. Qin Lao's status in the Huaxia Imperial Physician Group can be ranked in the top 5, of course, this is only considering international fame and reputation, and it is only used as a reference. She knew that Qin Lao had been in medicine since he was a child, and like her, he began to see patients at the age of 16. At the age of 30, he achieved the position of dean. Qin Lao adheres to the principle of practicing medicine as a great doctor to save the country and help the people for the people, and has been conscientious for many years. When he was the director of the Chinese Medicine Hospital, his number could not be hung up at all, because there were too many people looking for him. Later, he established the Qin Family Traditional Chinese Medicine Hall, recruited Chinese medicine enthusiasts for free to give lectures, and also arranged national examinations and then assigned work. And many of his students are now working in major and medium-sized hospitals, and 740 can be said to be full of peach and plum all over the world. At this time, Huang Xiaowai couldn't help but be moved when he looked at the daily photos of Qin Lao doing medical rescue work in North Africa. And when he saw that Qin Lao said that he wanted to seek help from a friend who was proficient in prescriptions. I can't help but be sentimental. Because everyone in the group knows that old man Qin himself is an expert in prescriptions, but when he is old, especially after the age of 80, his nose and tongue are not working. The ability to perceive the 4 qi and 5 flavors of traditional Chinese medicine decreased. It is also impossible to accurately determine the properties of the medicine. The 4 qi refer to cold, heat, warmth, and coolness. The 5 flavors refer to pungent, sweet, sour, bitter, and salty. This is still the most basic. Prescription dispensing also pays attention to dialectical and timeliness, and the medication for different patients at different time stages is different. In addition, from the perspective of traditional Chinese medicine, everything in heaven and earth can be used as medicine, such as some insect corpses and feces and other things that break the public perception, and even human nails and some metals. At this time, Qin Lao was a disease found in North Africa, and there must be differences between the water and soil of North Africa and the Dragon Kingdom. Those prescriptions will definitely be very different from when they were in the Dragon Kingdom. That is, if you want to really help Qin Lao, you must personally accompany Qin Lao to North Africa. But everybody's busy, which is obviously unrealistic. Therefore, you can only make suggestions online for reference. Come to think of this, Huang Xiaowai can only provide some suggestions based on what he has learned all his life, combined with the diagnosis results given by Qin Lao. And when the group members saw Huang Xiaowai's classic speech, they couldn't help but praise it. Sun Dadao of the typhoid school, Xiaowai's plan is good, as the so-called Sujian, the true treat is cloud, the cold is hot, and the hot is cold. Zhu Yuanyu of the Yin school, the prescription proposed by Xiaowai according to the efficacy is indeed simple and clear, and Boss Jean can give it a try. Dr. Xue of the Wenbu school, distinguishing the cause and curing it can be determined, but how to determine the dosage and ratio needs Xiaowai to follow up. Huatong school Jin Yuanzi, Xiaowai is not a genius girl, she learns prescriptions, and she is well versed in the past. It would be even better if he could follow Qin Lao to North Africa. The great doctor sincerely helps the world and saves the people. Qin Shi, thank you Huang Xiao for your suggestion, I will adopt it. Alas, North Africa is now taking infertility this year very seriously, and most of these people have the same symptoms. I remember a similar case recorded in a fragment of an ancient book, which stated that worms were used as good medicine to treat deviations. However, the relevant dialectics and medicinal properties testing are still vague, and I don't know if Huang Xiao can find out the secret recipe of this ancient book. Seeing this information, Huang Xiao paused. I didn't expect that Qin Lao would think of using insects as medicine, this should be Qin Lao's intuition. But sometimes their intuition is accurate, after all, they are old Chinese medicine doctors who really live to learn all the time, and read ancient books day and night when they travel every day. It is also very common to use insects as medicine. Whether it is Shennong's Classic of Materia Medica or Compendium of Materia Medica, Zongjin Prescription, etc., many classics of traditional Chinese medicine regard insect medicine as an indispensable part of the 5 types of medicine. The so-called not a good insect is a good medicine. This is mainly because of the strong medicinal properties of insect medicine and the effect of mono li hung. As a result, insect medicine cannot be eaten indiscriminately, qualitative and quantitative is very important, and medical codes must be followed, otherwise it will be poisoned. This made Huang Xiaowai worried. She had read a lot of ancient books, but there was no insect medicine recorded in any ancient books that could cure the symptoms that Qin Lao had just taken out. What makes her even more puzzled is that the water and soil of North Africa and the Dragon Country are different. Even if it is the same insect, it will cause its medicinal properties to be different after it is dried up, which requires the flexible combination of various medicines to trial and error. And this kind of prescription that must be combined with modern and ancient prescriptions is really too difficult to determine. And the ancients must have never been to North Africa. Even if she wasted her strength, I'm afraid she would have come to the wrong conclusion. Come to think of this, Huang Xiaowai couldn't help but post her doubts to the group, and at the same time pointed out that if the people over there are anxious about infertility, why not do IVF? Immediately, Qin Lao's side replied, IVF is too expensive, where can ordinary people afford it? What is the purpose of our old Chinese medicine doctor, to save the world and help the people? If you can use cheap and symptomatic medicine, you don't need Western medicine. And if I leave the pharmacy policy here, it will not only help the local people, but also prevent the slightest problem for our local people, and also highlight the Chinese medicine culture of our big country. Huang Xiao, do you know what I mean? Qin Lao's speech instantly received the support of the group members. Huang Xiaowai looked at the message sent by Qin Lao, and immediately blushed and was ashamed. As a 16-year-old girl, her consciousness still needs to be improved. Then he couldn't help but mumble to himself. It seems that infertility has become a global problem. And most people don't want to do test tubes either. If I give Baya this kind of exam question, will it be too difficult for him? Probably not. After all, Western medicine has already tested it. It seems that it is still necessary to ask for the opinions of the masters in the group. Come to think of this, Huang Xiaowai edited a message and sent it to the group. According to the rules of the group, have you thought of the exam questions for the newcomer White Knight? I did think of one. I just have a couple of doctors who see infertility in my hands. Their situation is: let Baya receive this doctor couple and let them successfully conceive is to pass the first step of the assessment. What do you think? After she sent this message, the group was quiet for a while, and it was obvious that everyone was considering. The assessment of newcomers is the rule set by the group owner. Don't look at this group of Chinese imperial doctors. It looks simple in form. It's because the avenue is simple. Everyone is adhering to the spirit of inheriting the culture of traditional Chinese medicine and coming together. There is no need for complicated rules and regulations, and there is no so-called discipline inspection commission to supervise those. After all, many of them themselves wear many hats, and some are high-ranking officials. Therefore, the form of the online prestige group is casual and simple, but the rules are very strict. Correspondingly, the masters in the group can enjoy various rights and interests granted by the state, such as high salary, senior official treatment, various R&D financial support, policy support, etc. Because they represent the root of the Chinese medicine culture of the Dragon Kingdom to a certain extent, in addition to serving the big people, they still have to bear the responsibility of inheriting the Chinese medicine culture. Based on this, therefore, everyone is very strict with the assessment of newcomers, and all employees need to review and approve it. After a while, someone in the group replied. It was Liang Yuqiu, who introduced Baya into the group, and he was a representative of the school of traditional Chinese medicine. He immediately pointed out, Xiao Huang, this is not appropriate. If you read a violent novel, go to Fila Novel Network. Judging from the information you gave, there is a high probability that the elites of these two countries are infertile for unknown reasons. They are all 40 years old. The fastest solution is to do test tubes. Now Western medicine tests their health. Chinese medicine tests are basically normal, but they just can't get pregnant. This is a matter of probability. I introduced Baya to the group, and I can vouch for his medical skills. But even then, it won't solve the problem of probability. See this message. Huang Xiaowai was stunned and sent out a random message. Professor Liang, this shouldn't be a matter of probability. The couple has been married for 5 years and has not given birth, and under normal circumstances, if they do not get pregnant after 2 years of intercourse, they will have infertility lesions. It's just that I'm only 16 years old, and my knowledge of this is only superficial. I think that White Knight is dedicated to infertility. Isn't it appropriate to set this exam question for him? It just happened that the option of Western medical physical examination was eliminated, so we can see what insights he can have in terms of TCM treatment. As soon as this statement came out, Liang Yuqiu was silent, and the group also fell silent. In fact, most of the group members feel that it is a little more difficult to let Baya see this case of infertility. Because infertility is a symptom, the cause may be so complex that it cannot be detected by Western medicine. The main reason for infertility in traditional Chinese medicine lies in the imbalance of the 5 organs. Of course, how to find out the imbalance dialectically? It's easy to say, but it's hard to say. It is a test of the comprehensive ability of a Chinese medicine practitioner. And the criterion for passing the assessment is to get the couple who have not conceived for 5 years pregnant, which is very difficult. That's when it happened. Qin Lao suddenly spoke. I think Huang Xiao's exam questions are appropriate. 0. The same problem of infertility is much more difficult in North Africa than in the young couple. I guess they just have a weak spleen and liver. After all, that kind of work environment is easy to cause, which is relatively easy to solve. So, set a time limit for the little friends of the White Knight, 3 months, if 3 months of the White Knight can't solve their infertility problem. Then if you fail the assessment, you will be excluded from our group according to the rules. Let's just decide, and if you agree, you will deduct 1. Chinshi's reputation in the group was very high, and as soon as he spoke, everyone responded. 1. 1 plus. 1 plus plus. In the view of traditional Chinese medicine, the main pathogenesis of infertility is kidney qi deficiency, chongren qi and blood imbalance, which can be caused by kidney deficiency, liver depression, phlegm obstruction, blood stasis, and other causes. Although 3 months is a bit rushed, it is still possible to be cured. But if you want to pass the assessment, you will have a lot of luck. And the premise must be that Western medicine has not misdiagnosed. Everyone knows the difficulty here, but since Jin Lao has spoken, let's agree. In the end, Liang Yukai was helpless, and his opposition was invalid. Liang Yukai, I finally found a good seedling, but it seems that I can't keep it. Huang Zaiwai, in that case, let me inform Bai. In addition, Bai is participating in the live broadcast of the champion. You can also pay attention when you have time. Meanwhile, the other side. Bai's Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum. Congratulations to the host for choosing to tell you wholeheartedly. Reward 100 times energy. You will have the physical strength, energy, and brain power that surpasses the national athletes and scientific research workers. Even if you don't sleep for 7 days and 7 nights, it will not affect your work status. The electronic sound of the system is heard. Bai's eyes suddenly lit up, and he randomly saw a ball of energy light appear above his head, and then poured into his body. Suddenly, White Knight feels as if the cells of the whole body have been ironed very comfortably, and every pore in the body is dilated, which is like dopamine, endorphins, and prolactin acting on the body at the same time. It is both satisfying and joyful, and full of energy. This made his whole eyes brighten, and his whole face was like a mirror. Li Jiajia noticed the strangeness of Baiya and couldn't help but be surprised. "Boss, are you secretly putting on makeup?" No, could it be that I'm dazzled, as if I have added a layer of filters? Boss, your whole body is shining." "What do you want?" Hearing Li Jiajia's words, Baiya came back to his senses and looked at her, with a serious attitude. "Ahem, this is the manifestation of practicing medicine and doing good deeds, and the yang energy will naturally increase. When the yang energy is sufficient, the external manifestation is full of energy. Got it?" "Huh?" Hearing this, Li Jiajia's eyes widened, and then she pursed her lips and smiled. "Okay, there is a point in what a handsome person says." Baiya smiled, carefully felt the changes in his whole body, clenched his fists strongly, breathed deeply, and his eyes were like meteors. It's a 100-fold effect. As soon as the energy is full, the person is full of fighting spirit. He is no longer satisfied with passively waiting for the patient to come to the door, he should be 2.3 active. Baiya glanced at the live broadcast room, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. There are many spaces that can be actively chosen. For example, connecting with netizens, setting up a penguin number to accept online information from patients, answering questions, and so on. In his previous life, he was a science tyrant. It is also possible to make a TCMAI program to accommodate all the Q&A databases of TCM consultations given by the system. This is a big project, but it can be planned for a long time to benefit the country and the people. In short, there is so much that can be done. Come to think of this. Bai's eyes lit up, but after a while, he hesitated. I couldn't help but complain in my heart. Although I have mastered the god-level pulse control and acupuncture, there is also a massage that seems to be quite chicken. But there's one most important skill that I haven't received. That's the medicine. An old Chinese medicine doctor who can't grasp medicine, isn't it a joke? Bai Ye touched his chin. Fortunately, at this moment, he already has a rich theoretical foundation in traditional Chinese medicine, and even if he does not trigger the system selection, he can also learn prescriptions on his own. It's just time consuming. Therefore, at this stage, it is better to see more patients and make yourself full first. Pity. The two of them stayed in the alley, and another hour passed in the blink of an eye, and there was not a single consulter. Boss, the morning is about to pass, and business is not good today. Li Jiajia said boredly. Ahem, from the perspective of Chinese medicine, it's a good thing that no one gets sick. Bai Ye heard this, a serious way, but there was also some regret in his heart. And they don't know that at this moment, White Knights fans are all over the country, and they are rushing to him. Soon, they will know how terrible the number of infertility in the country is, and how bloody the difference between human beings is. At the same time, Huang Xiaowai couldn't contact Bai Ye for a long time, and he was ready to send him a voice. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 59. Bai Ye asked Li Jiajia to interact with netizens more, and he just took time to plan more cases. In order to receive more patients in need. That's when it happened. Did it I? The prestige voice call rang. Bai Ye glanced at it, but he didn't expect it to be Huang Xiaowai calling, and pressed the answer button. Hello, is there something wrong? Your uncle, you've been in the group for a few times, are you blind? Huang Xiaowai on the other end of the voice heard Bai Ye's tone, and immediately became angry and said indignantly. I'm sorry, I don't usually look at my phone. Hearing that the other party's tone was not good, Bai Ye took the phone away a little, and said with a positive color. Let's talk about something. Of course there is. Huang Xiaowai calmed down and explained the newcomer assessment explained by the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group to Bai Ye in detail. So, you only have 3 months, and you can't get that couple to conceive. You will be excluded from the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group. Do you understand? The voice fell. Bai Ye was slightly stunned. Huang Xiaowai said a lot just now, but he remembered a lot of key words. The two doctoral students, who are the pillars of the country, have been married for 5 or 6 years, but they still can't conceive children. Then, the couple had a physical examination every month of the year, and everything was normal. The woman's menstrual period was regular, and the man's tadpoles were of good quality. Then, Huang Xiaowai was not good at dealing with infertility due to his young age, so he happened to be handed over to him as an assessment topic for him as a newcomer in the group. After this conclusion was reached, Bai Ye suddenly cried and laughed a little, and was worried that there would be no patience to make a name for himself. Isn't this a coincidence? Moreover, listening to Huang Xiaowai, after passing the assessment of the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group, you can enjoy many national welfare policies, with an annual salary of at least 10 million. Boy! It seems that he underestimated this group of Chinese imperial doctors before. This group can indeed be used as a stepping stone to your own success. After the other party finished speaking in a squeamish voice, Bai Ye said with a hearty smile. Let's talk about it, let's introduce them. I don't refuse to come. Also, thank you Xiao Huang, next time I invite you to dinner. Looks like I shouldn't have bothered to set up group messages, haha. Do not disturb the news. Hearing Bai Ye's words, Huang Xiaowai was stunned for a moment, and the group that his peers wanted to enter was actually set up by this guy to not disturb the news. What kind of elm head is this? You must know that all the Chinese imperial doctors are big guys, and every word they say in the field of traditional Chinese medicine can be described as 1,000 words. The information exchanged in the group is even more priceless. As a result, this guy, abandoned like a mustard. It's a pity that she can't kick Baiye out if she is not the leader of the group, and now after learning about Baiye's operation, she regrets introducing the patient to Baiye. I don't have any hope for Baiye's medical skills. Imagine treating a descendant like a predecessor, is it still worth entrusting? Come to think of this. Huang Xiaowai was angry, and hummed. Huh. Are you quite confident? I didn't see how skilled you are in medicine, just like the pair of young couples you just treated. It's so hilarious to find out the reason for infertility, just like your behavior. So, if you're self-aware, just give up and quit the group yourself. Hearing Huang Xiaowai's tone suddenly cold, Baiye touched his nose in embarrassment and said leisurely. Xiao Huang, I said I really appreciate the information you provided. I will definitely be attentive to the patients you deliver. So give me their contact information. No need. Hearing that Baiye was quite sincere, Huang Xiaowai gritted his teeth, thinking that after all, it was recommended by Liang Lao, and he also passed Qin Lao's plan, so let's go through the motions. You can't say it too much, in case this guy is a weird and passes the test. Thinking of this, Poop opened his mouth coldly. They are the elites that the state focuses on, and they are related to the country's progress in the field of superconductor research. We've informed their leadership, if nothing else. They're doing a helicopter coming to you right now. So, you have to be prepared to be interviewed by the radio media. In other words, if you don't have two brushes to discredit our Huaxia imperial doctors, Speaking of this, Huang Xiaowai continued, but hung up the voice directly. Baiye was stunned. Unexpectedly, the doctor and his wife were so valued by the state that they actually arranged a special plane. It looks like it's going to be ready for battle. Boss, what's wrong? Li Jiajia couldn't help but ask when she saw the change in Baiye's face. Nothing. Hearing the question, Baiye turned to look at Li Jiajia and spoke. There may be a big man coming later. If you feel that you have no medical skills, you can go back first. Rest assured, the salary is still calculated on a daily basis. Big shot, hey, interesting, then why am I embarrassed to go, boss? Looking at Baiye's face, Li Jiajia had a good-looking arc at the corner of her mouth. My dad is the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee. I haven't seen any big people. I want to see what kind of big people will come to our little corner. Hear this. White Knight was trying to explain. At this time, his prestige voice phone rang again. If you look closely, this will be Professor Leung. Press the answer button. Hey, Professor Liang. Xiaobai. Liang Yuqiu asked with concern on the other end of the phone, why don't you bubble in the group, and you're still busy? Oh, yes, Baiye didn't say anything about it, so don't bother. Is there anything wrong? Professor Liang. You can just look at the group message, about your group assessment, this is the group rule. Hearing this, Professor Liang said patiently. Well, I already know, Xiao Huang just informed me. Baiye nodded. Xiaobai, alas, hearing this, Professor Liang sighed slightly, and then spoke. You'll take a good look at the group information later, and to be honest, it's too demanding for you to take care of this pair of infertility cases. After all, Qin Lao's assessment standard is for you to get that couple pregnant within 3 months. And the couple is likely to be infertile for unknown reasons, because they have seen a lot of Chinese medicine before, but nothing has been found. And their unit also has regular physical examinations, which shows that the body is fine, and it also shows that pregnancy is a probability problem for them. And there is no way to beat probability. Alas, Xiaobai, I recommended you, a young talent, and I can't bear to be excluded again. So, I plan to talk to the group at that time, so that everyone can open up the net at that time, and then set other exam questions for you. I called to tell you about this in the hope that you wouldn't put too much pressure on yourself. Understood? Hearing Professor Liang's words of concern, Bai Ye couldn't stop crying and laughing again. He doesn't feel any pressure at all right now. I can't wait to receive that wonderful doctor couple as soon as possible. Just now, he also received a pair of strange little couples, which made him realize that there are many strange characteristics of the human species, and many strange truths are often hidden in unnoticed details. And he has the supreme pulse technique, which gives him an advantage over other doctors to discover those details. Therefore, when it comes to him, those preconditions, such as good health, have become his advantages. Because as long as you find out the details, you can make the couple have a baby. It doesn't even take 3 months, and if it goes well, you can get pregnant in 1 month. However, of course, Bai Ye couldn't say this to Professor Liang, so he could only express his gratitude with emotion. Professor Liang, I appreciate your kindness. Let it be. However, I believe that things are man-made. I will try my best to become the most shining point in our group of Chinese imperial doctors, for tens of millions of high salaries. Hearing this, Professor Liang nodded and said with relief again. If you read a violent novel, go to Fila Novel Network. I know, Xiaobai, just do your best. I'll tell you one more thing, even if you're kicked out. 5 years later, there is still a chance to join the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group again. You're still young, anything is possible. Haha, okay, Professor Liang, no matter what, I won't let you down. Hearing Professor Liang say this, Bai Ye couldn't help but be a little moved. It seems that he is going to add a new item to his plan, that is, to become famous in the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group. Okay, Professor Liang said with a smile. As soon as I got the news, the couple would arrive in the magic capital in an hour. I'll tell you one more thing, they're celebrities. The birth of the two is a matter of national concern, which will inevitably alarm some media reporters. When the time comes, don't lose the face of our Huaxia Imperial doctors. Bai Ye nodded, and hung up the voice call. And this call, Li Jiajia deliberately stuck to Bai Ye's side, so she heard every word clearly. Speak now. Boss, I heard it all, isn't this very similar to the little couple we just treated? Let me go first this time. This time, I won't make low-level mistakes, and I will definitely make a comprehensive pulse analysis. Are you sure? Hearing this, Bai Ye looked at Li Jiajia and asked. Didn't you hear it just now? It's a big guy coming, and there may be media reporters. If something goes wrong, you won't die. Don't be afraid, I've seen a lot of big scenes and have experience in coping. Li Jiajia patted her chest and smiled. Bai Ye heard this and thought about it. Let Li Jiajia take the pulse first, and then observe next to her and then take the main diagnosis, which will not affect the assessment of the group. After all, the assessment is to get the couple pregnant within 3 days, and finding out the cause of their infertility is only the first step. There are no rules in the group, and assistants are not allowed to help. So I agreed. Time flies. An hour passed. In the small alley where the Bai's Chinese medicine hall is located, there were originally pedestrians coming and going. But for some reason, all of a sudden there was no one. Then, when I heard the noise outside, I realized that it was martial law. Followed by a familiar host walked into the Bai's Chinese medicine hall. Bai Ye fixed his eyes on it, but he didn't expect it to be Ziosa, a reporter from Yangtai. Hello everyone, I'm reporter Ziosa. Today, we followed the itinerary of Yan Shijun and his wife and came to the live broadcast of the contestants of the Champion of the Line program, which is really a dream linkage. This is the Bai Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum, which specializes in infertility, and our Yan Shijun and his wife will arrive by special car in a while. You should be curious why they are looking for this little alley. To be honest, I was shocked when I first learned the news. Secretly tell everyone that Baiye, the owner of this Chinese medicine hall, is a member of the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group. It is no exaggeration to say that it is their dedication that can lead to the life and health of the pillars of our country. It's not simple, it's called that the mountain is not high, there are fairies, and the water is not deep, and the dragons are spiritual. Xiao Sa said. Came to Baiye and Li Jiajia. He was followed by a photographer, which caught Baiye and Li Jiajia off guard. Dr. Bai, you should have been notified as well. Xiao Sa said politely, you will be busy with you for a while, don't worry about me, the object of our focus is Yan Shijun and his wife. Hearing Xiao Sa's words, Baiye was stunned, he really didn't expect such a big battle. It's really strange to see such a private thing as infertility these days, and there are still people who follow the whole process. You don't have to be surprised, now the country attaches great importance to the phenomenon of infertility, especially the scientific research community, there are many followers in the same industry, and we also obtained the consent of Yan Shijun and his wife before deciding to follow the record. Xiao Sa looked at the confused Baiye and explained in a professional tone. Baiye nodded, he could accept such a scene. However, he didn't expect that he found that Li Jiajia actually blushed. Well, Li Jiajia, why are you here? Xiao Sa's expression moved slightly after seeing Li Jiajia. 867. Hello Mr. Ziosa, I'm working as Dr. Bai's assistant here. Li Jiajia smiled. What a coincidence, I didn't expect it to be brother Yan Shijun, who had seen a doctor, when he appeared in the Let's Talk hosted by you, I was still his little fan sister. Yes, you are a youth representative, and you have also taken a photo with Yan Shijun. Xiao Sa remembered and smiled. Li Jiajia nodded shyly, brother Yan is my idol, and his spirit encouraged me to apply for Fudan University. Hearing their conversation, Baiye thought thoughtfully, it seemed that this Yan Shijun was really a celebrity. So I couldn't help but interject. Are there a lot of infertility in the group of scientific research workers now? Not a lot, indeed. Hearing Baiye's question, Xiao Sa replied truthfully, of course, he didn't know the specific number, he only knew that it was very important. As he spoke, Xiao Sa paused again and continued to speak. They have done a lot for the country, and the country does not want to chill their hearts. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, the country will not give up. Dr. Bai, in this special group, there are many people who are similar to Yan Shijun and his wife. Both Chinese and Western medicine have their own advantages and disadvantages, and now the country has locked its hope on your old Chinese medicine practitioners. In a sense, Dr. Bai, you will not only receive Yan Shijun and his wife, but a group of silent and dedicated scientific research workers like them. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere suddenly became solemn. Especially Xiao Sa's eyes, he never expected Baiye to be so young, and he faintly felt not good. Baiye noticed that Li Jiajia's shoulders were still trembling. At this time, the netizens in the live broadcast room saw Xiao Sa coming, and then heard them chatting, and basically knew the whole story. In an instant, the popularity of the live broadcast room was driven. They are the pioneers in the research of graphene superconducting materials, what a god is really unfair. It's a pity, so get married and have a baby as soon as possible. They got married in their 30s after graduating from the doctorate, although they can have regular physical examinations, but they still can't escape the torture of infertility, and there are many variables at this age. Yan Shijun is a physics expert, and he has also participated in the Super Brain Show. Such a talent is actually troubled by infertility, what a jealous talent. The anchor is also awesome, and he is actually qualified to treat Yan Shijun. Actually, I wondered, they have money for scientific research, why don't they do IVF? IVF is not risk-free, both husband and wife are healthy, and they are not at the point of desperation. It is said that Yan Shijun likes traditional culture very much, and prefers traditional Chinese medicine to Western medicine, so she will unscrupulously expose her shortcomings by recording and interviewing, so that more people can be alert. Netizens are talking about it in full swing. Then, a BMW drove up the door. The doors open. Two middle-aged couples with dusty temperaments walked down. Traditional Chinese medicine, infertility, crazy social death patients. Author, Cold Shower in Winter. Chapter 60. It was Yan Shijun and his wife who got out of the car. When they got out of the car, they couldn't help but be in a trance when they saw the signboard of Bai's Chinese Medicine Pavilion and the environment they were in. 2 hours ago, they were still in the Imperial Capital Science and Technology Bureau, which was resplendent in gold. The simple atmosphere of the market in front of me is bright. I still remember that before leaving, the leaders of the Science and Technology Bureau told them that this time they were treated by another master of the Huaxia Imperial Medical Group, who was the holy son of Chinese medicine appointed by Professor Liang. I thought that the holy son of Chinese medicine would sit in the mansion of a Chinese medicine family, but I didn't expect it to be so close to the people. It made them feel very cordial, and they were even more curious about this Beishi Chinese Medicine Museum. This way. Seeing that Yan Shijun and his wife were present, Xiaosa immediately changed his face and began to introduce to the camera. Audience friends, our Yan Shijun and his wife have arrived. Presumably, the family members who follow this interview know that both of them came from humble backgrounds and were survivors of the earthquake disaster, but God is still fair. They met in a children's welfare home, and from an early age they showed an intelligence beyond ordinary people, and the seeds of their love also sprouted silently in the corner of childhood. This way. Baya listened to Xiao Sa's introduction, looked at the door, and soon saw two middle-aged couples with tall temperaments. Also instantly understood the reason why they were so famous. Unexpectedly, they are over 40 years old, but they all look as energetic as they are in their 20s. And the two of them are also very good-looking, not losing to some Hong Kong and Taiwan stars. Even though they are dressed very maturely, their eyebrows are still full of curiosity and enthusiasm for the world. If there is no infertility problem, this scientific research couple is an enviable fairy couple. Especially the woman's eyes looking at the man made by Yes' first impression very deep. Just like in a film and television drama, Xiaolongnu looked at Yang Guo's eyes, and the meaning of divine friendship was really intriguing. Watching the two walk into the store, Baya nodded politely. At the same time, I remembered the key information that Xiao Sa just said. This Yan Shijun and his wife both experienced the earthquake disaster when they were children and met in the welfare home. Baya faintly felt that this experience might have planted the seeds for their fate. The two walked to the consultation table and looked at Baya and Li Jiajia. "Hello, Dr. Bai." "Hello too, please be seated." Baya smiled, signaled that they were not welcome, and then asked casually. "To be honest, the two of you look vigorous and shining, you should usually pay attention to maintenance, right?" Hearing Baya's straightforward questioning, the woman Xie Xiaoqan glanced at Yan Shijun, and Yan Shijun shook her little hand. Politely replied. "It probably has something to do with the fact that we received Buddhist education from a young age. Our way of life is based on simplicity, less thinking, less desire, and a light diet. In the past 2 years, I have not eaten at lunch, and I will find time every week to climb the mountain and worship the Buddha. As for maintenance, we go with the flow, that's all." Hearing this, Baya nodded. No wonder the temperament of the two is so special, both men and women are as bright and refreshing as the bright moon. However, it stands to reason that if this is the way of life, the body should be very healthy. Even if the two of them reach 50, they can still have children. Unexpectedly, after 5 or 6 years of marriage, there is still no income. It's weird. It seems that it needs to be carefully checked to know it. "Jia, You give them a pulse first. Baya immediately looked at Li Jiajia and found that this little girl had kept her head down, but she was embarrassed to look at Yan Shijun. It wasn't until Baya touched her that Shiren raised his head. "Hi, brother Yan Shijun, I'm Li Jiajia." Li Jiajia smiled hard. "Oh, it's you." Yan Shijun saw Li Jiajia, who was dressed fashionably out of the circle, and her face moved slightly. Then I couldn't help but chuckle in my heart. Isn't this the daughter of the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee? At that time, he served as a youth representative guest in the foreign TV program Let's Talk. And he was a guest speaker. He remembered that the little girl was in her first year of high school and her academic performance was very bad. Later, it was her father who found him with a little relationship and asked him to be Li Jiajia's tutor to teach mathematics, physics, and chemistry. It's a pity that this girl doesn't seem to have many science cells, and she is obviously very interested in medicine, but her chemistry grades are a mess. The worst thing is math. No matter how he tutors, this little girl's math score is not ideal. So, later I heard that she gave up science and switched to liberal arts. But I didn't expect it. The girl who studied a little wooden back then is now in front of him, and she has to take his pulse. This made Yan Shijun feel a little stunned. This girl shouldn't have dragged a relationship to this Chinese medicine hall for an internship, right? However, he didn't show it in front of the camera, and he was still personable. Instead, he cooperated and stretched out his hand and put it on the consultation table. It's just that there is no hope in my heart. Even faintly felt that the spy's Chinese medicine pavilion was not very reliable. Because since he walked into this small medical hall, he didn't see any words on the signboard of the Chinese imperial doctor, but a lot of modern testing instruments. This is too inconsistent, so he immediately judged that Baya must be a newcomer who has not passed the assessment. "Okay, I'm tired," Yan Shijun said lightly. I'll take your pulse first." Li Jiajia cheered herself up in her heart. She used to be a poor student, but now she is a top student at Fudan University. It's different. At this time, Xiao Sa was keenly aware of the micro-expressions on the faces of these two people, and guessed some clues. So he hurriedly changed the topic in front of the camera. Our Yan Shijun has already started to be consulted, which is the pulse of the Chinese medicine in the diagnosis. Traditional Chinese medicine believes that the cause of our infertility mainly comes from the imbalance of the 5 organs. Through the complex pulse of the human body, TCM doctors can get a glimpse of the whole picture, which is the holistic view of TCM. In addition, Li Jiajia is our right-hand man of Dr. We will wait and see what the specific results will be. After the voice fell, the scientific research groups who paid attention to Xiaosa's interview program expressed their opinions one after another. The situation of Yan Shijun and his wife is indeed too special. They have regular physical examinations every month, and the two are in good health, and the doctor assesses that their physical age is 25 years old. Is it possible that the doctor's testing equipment is still missing and misdiagnosed, which is a common thing, such as fetal pregnancy test? Ultrasound examination is not comprehensive at all. Many examinations do not find problems, but the baby is born with malformations. However, if the scientific instruments of Western medicine cannot detect it, and Chinese medicine cannot detect it, the biggest common denominator between Chinese medicine and Western medicine is statistics. But Western medicine is more precise. Western medicine pays attention to the subdivision method, subdividing into individual tissues, cells, and even genetic material molecules. As for traditional Chinese medicine, it is too unscientific in comparison. Traditional Chinese medicine is not scientific, and it is not in the same dimension as the dialectic of Western medicine. Alas, no matter what, we hope that Yan Shijun and his wife can check the results, otherwise they will be going to run 5. Yes, but seeing that this little girl is too young, and so is this Dr. Bai, she hasn't graduated from college yet, can you really find out the crux of the problem? I don't understand, the best diploma of Chinese medicine is the family inheritance. But that little girl, I know, the daughter of the secretary of the Imperial Capital Municipal Party Committee, she is not from a family of traditional Chinese medicine at all. No, what the hell is this? At this time, Huang Xiaowai also saw the current situation through the live broadcast room of White Knight. When she saw Li Jiajia taking Yan Shijun's pulse, she was suddenly angry. Okay, you have a White Knight, let an outsider who has learned a little bit of Chinese medicine take the pulse of the national scientific research boss. What does the brain think? In front of everyone's eyes, this is a smear against our Huaxia imperial doctors. And we're asking you to consult, this is your assessment. It's so disappointing. Huang Xiaowai was so angry that he took a sip of ginger milk tea. Xiaowai, why are you angry? At this time, an old man with crane hair and a red face walked over. He is Huang Xiaowai's grandfather, known as Huang Yaoshi, who has been invited to join the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group many times, but he automatically quit, saying that he wants to participate in the Great Road of Medicine and does not want to participate in any organization. Oops, you're drinking milk tea again. Huang Yaoshi sat down beside Huang Xiaowai and kindly admonished. Didn't Grandpa tell you, milk tea is not a good thing, you should eat less fruits this season, and eat more nuts if you want to eat snacks. Oh, I see, Grandpa, it's too much. Seeing his grandfather, Huang Xiaowai took another sip of milk tea. If you read a violent novel, go to Fila Novel Network. And then he said. I'm fine, I'm bored watching the live broadcast. Huang Yaoshi glanced at his granddaughter's tablet, saw the words of Bai's Chinese Medicine Hall, and then saw Yan Shijun, and immediately understood something. Just now, Liang Yukaiu called him and asked him to tell his granddaughter not to be too strict with Bai Ye's assessment. It seems that the granddaughter is angry about the White Knight. This young man is a newcomer who has just joined the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group. Huang Yaoshi touched his beard. Lao Liang said that this young man's TCM massage skills are good. That old guy is really old and dizzy, and he has been pulled into the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group just by virtue of the traditional Chinese medicine massage technique on the bad street. Good granddaughter, keep an eye on it, if this guy can't even prescribe prescriptions, don't care if he can pass the assessment, just vote negative. Got it, I'd like to vote no now. Hearing his grandfather say this, Huang Xiaowai said indignantly. At this time, Bai's Traditional Chinese Medicine Museum. Li Jiajia has been touching Yan Shijun's pulse for more than 3 minutes, and she still has no clue. The mistakes she made just now for Luo Fangfang and his wife have been absorbed, and this will be a serious analysis of various viscera and pulses. Still nothing. I don't know if the other party is okay, or if there is a problem with my own pulse technique. Li Jiajia tried hard to find the pulse of the imbalance of the 5 internal organs, but she didn't, and she suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Li Jiajia, if you don't take a break, it should be almost the same for a minute or two to check the pulse. Yan Shijun said frankly. But the meaning of the words is actually obvious, those real old Chinese medicine doctors have taken the pulse, so don't waste time. That's, all right. Li Jiajia swallowed her saliva, and her heart became more and more bottomless. Because she didn't find any flaws at all, and she couldn't ask any questions. After hesitating for a while, he looked at Yan Shijun's lover Xie Ziokan. Then let's change someone. Her voice just fell. Bai Ye's hand was on her shoulder. Come on with me, you watch. Bai Ye's tone was unmistakable. Through a simple observation just now, he found that the situation of Yan Shijun and his wife would be more tricky than that of Lu Jun and his wife. Because Lu Jun and his wife just look normal and healthy. But Yan Shijun and his wife look like a star couple, their work and life are minimalist, and they have a national level physical examination. This situation is something that Li Jiajia can't deal with, and it will be a waste of time to continue to drag on, and it will also hit Li Jiajia's confidence. Of course. The main reason is that he just received a text message from Huang Xiaowai, so that he should not be embarrassed. Sit down, both of you, and I'll consult you at the same time. After Bai Ye sat down, he said loudly. Dr. Bai wants to take our pulse at the same time. Hearing Bai Ye's words, Yan Shijun was stunned. This is not in accordance with the regulations. Yes, it's my unique technique. Bai Ye smiled faintly. Hear this. Everyone was shocked. How is it possible to diagnose two people at the same time? It can only be one-on-one, this is common sense, and it should not be less than 2 minutes to take a person's pulse, because people's pulses are complex and subject to many disturbing factors. As a result, Baya actually said in such a noisy environment that he wanted to check the pulse of two people at the same time, which suddenly made everyone feel like they were slippery. Sit down, you two, I'm also a member of the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group, please believe in my medical skills. Baya saw their doubts and explained. Okay. When Yan Shijun heard this, she glanced at her wife, and pulled her wife Xie Ziokin to sit down together. Then, Baya poked out his left and right hands at the same time, and examined one person with one hand, looking like a Chinese medicine liar in a movie. Huang Yaoshi saw Baya operating like this through the live broadcast room, and his face suddenly drooped. Nonsense! Corrupt the virtues of Chinese medicine. There is no reason to take the pulse of two people at the same time. Even if he is a pulse diagnosis master like Qin Lao, he is careful to take the pulse of one person with two hands, and this kid is good to take the pulse of two different people with two hands. Kick it, such a person is simply a cancer in the Chinese medicine industry. A rat poop of his will spoil the entire bowl of soup of the Huaxia Imperial Doctor Group. Grandpa, hearing Grandpa's words, Huang Xiaowai also sighed again and again. I'm not the leader of the group, and we don't have a group leader in our group, it's all democratic voting, how can I kick it? Okay, good. Huang Yaoshi heard this, and was about to call Liang Yukaiu, when he suddenly paused again. Well, I'd like to see what this boy called White Knight can see. If this kid comes nonsense and is untrustworthy, I will break off my friendship with Lao Liang. White Knight's here. He has the supreme pulse technique, so he doesn't have to worry about their gaze at all, but cares about the heart, Lita's, diagnosis. Not for a while. He noticed something unusual. That is, Yan Shijun and his wife look healthy, but the kidney qi is a little different, and this difference is very subtle, so subtle that it is difficult for any old Chinese medicine doctor to notice. Because this change in kidney qi is related to a person's mood. In the worldview of traditional Chinese medicine, the flow of qi and blood in the 5 internal organs is indeed related to people's emotions. For example, the heart is happy in the will, the liver is angry in the will, the spleen is in the will for thinking, the kidney is in the will for fear, and the lungs are in the will for sadness. These 7 emotions and 6 desires are called emotions in the theory of traditional Chinese medicine, and the qi and blood of the human body are the material basis for emotional activities, so emotions correspond to the 5 organs. Let's be honest. Pulse changes caused by mood changes are difficult to analyze by taking the pulse. Because emotions change so fast, if you compare the speed of a computer to 50 Hz per second, then the speed of emotion is 5 million Hz per second. Therefore, there will be a deliberate statement, that is, it is irrational when the emotions come up. Baya took a deep breath. Fortunately, with the assistance of the system, he was able to discover this detail. Therefrom, Baya thought that these two couples had an earthquake experience when they were children, that is, they were too frightened when they were children, and they were afraid of hurting their kidneys, which in turn were mainly reproductive development. This means, even if there is no problem with the kidneys detected by Western medicine, when encountering emotions such as panic, kidney qi will be affected. Wait a minute. Baya analyzed, but his brows furrowed. even so, it shouldn't be damaged to the point of infertility. After all, these two have developed normally to adulthood. What is the reason for that? Wait. How could the woman's place of Ren, governor, and Chong be so strange? The chi and blood in the perineum, how can it be like this? Damn, outrageous. White Knight was stunned, the truth was so ridiculous. For the first time, he doubted the system's judgment. It's hard to believe that you'll have to do a mechanical check after a while. Ding. Host consultation is detected, select system on.